Hello. Welcome back to November, the Power of No. We're going on today um, to episode 15 for November 19th. And I promised this yesterday. We are talking today about toxic spending, saying no to toxic spending. Now, we already covered this a little bit in habits, but this one is so important around the holidays, although it doesn't just apply to the holidays, that it is worth discussing. A few statistics for you that I found kind of appalling. For Christmas 2019, which is one of the last ones they have information on about debt, and it was also kind of one of the last normal Christmases, 44% of Americans racked up holiday debt that averaged about $1,325. And of those 44% of Americans in that group that racked up debt, 75% of them or more actually incurred interest because it was not paid off in January. Now, in 2020, the debt was $1,381, which is a 40% increase in the past 5 years. Debt's a scary thing to think about because it adds to our stress. It poisons our new year. It's kind of like the way the scale is after having a really big meal, like you've kind of already forgotten about it, and then there's that weight increase. Debt poisons things for us. Sorry, I forgot about that light out in the hallway. Well, you'll just have to live with it. You can focus on it or something. So how do we say no to excess spending, to toxic spending that leads to debt? Well, here's the first one. Make a list and check it twice. You know, kind of like making a list, checking it twice, the lovely Christmas song. But the second time, start deleting people. Now, I know that sounds like for some of you horrific, but you know what? You can do it. There are people you really don't need to buy for. And if it's somebody who's mutual, feel free to let them know that you're trying to be wiser with their money and that so you're not going to do those little, it's all those little things that add up, those little $15, $25 gifts that you have to get just to be kind. Say, we're not going to do that this year. And you know what? In most cases, those people will be relieved. I have a group that I'm planning to do that with this year because I'm just like, we have trouble finding things for each other. We buy them. Last year, we kind of ended up not doing it. And I thought we can just continue that tradition of not buying gifts for one another. Mainly last year, we didn't do it because we didn't see each other. But we are. Let's just continue that tradition of not buying gifts we don't need to spend money on. The second thing is to set a budget for your food, a budget for decorations, and a budget for gifts. And then stick to it, even with the kids. Okay? Let your kids know. We discussed that on the 9th of November, back in the first week, how to talk about that with your kids. Set the budget and stick with it. What ends up happening for people is in those last week, they suddenly start grabbing lots of little things that, or maybe big things that they didn't need to buy. They've already overspent their budget and they just keep adding to it. So set a budget and stick with it. Also, stop wasting money on food. None of us needs to eat as much as we insist on having on our holiday table. None of us needs to eat the number of cookies we insist on baking. So begin to trim that to a more reasonable amount. Now, another thing you can do if you're the creative type is get creative on gifts and use homemade gifts or food as a gift. I love food as a gift personally. One, because I love to eat, obviously. But the other reason is because it's not something I have to store in my house. As you can tell by these bookshelves, our house is packed, mostly with books. But it's really hard to get gifts that are things that you have to keep in your home. For many people, that's difficult. So think of things that get used up. Gifts of food, things like that that people can use up, enjoy, and not have to keep around. And it usually can save you money if you do it that way. Also, here's another great idea, something we do pretty regularly, especially with creating groups of people, but we donate to charities in everyone's honor. So you can do it as a group gift, and you can just send out a card to everybody in your Bible study or whatever and say, hey, in honor of our Bible study group, we made a donation to Habitat for Humanity, or we made a donation to a pregnancy center, or we made a donation to whatever in your honor through this for Christmas. And you are blessing someone else while you are being blessed, and while you're not giving people things they have to do something with. There's an incredible alternative gift fair. It's called Gifts That Gives Hope, that takes place in Lancaster County, but you can find it online, called Gifts That Give Hope. It is a great way to give presents that have meaning to people. But many of your charities have that kind of thing. They'll send a card as well if you want them to. But it's a great way to make a difference in the world and gives gifts that help two people. It's like giving twice. The other thing to do is to track your spending. Okay, as you spend, write on that list. You can do it as a tally where you have to subtract, right? And when you hit your limit, you're done. So maybe you need to organize your list so that it's by priority of who you're buying for. And when you hit the bottom, you're done. You're out of money. Or use it as a cash envelope. I told you I work in a store 1 day a week, and today is actually the day, so you're getting this recorded. There's a lot more people coming in and buying cash, I'm noticing. And I think that's a good thing, because if you do it that way, you know what you've spent and it's gone when you're done. Next thing is, and this is one lesson I've been doing for years, is to choose not to buy couple presents. Okay? We buy the things we need when we want them, and often the things we like when we want them. So we're like, why should we go through spending extra money in December to buy things for each other that we could just spread out over time and get ourselves at a later date or whatever? So that's our choice. We also usually try to instead invest in experience, going to the theater, or going on a short vacation, or an overnight stay, or a longer vacation, depending on the time frame in our wallets. But think about that. Do we really need to spend time or spend money on each other if you're a couple? Now, if you are the person who your love language is absolutely gifts, you need to communicate that to your spouse or your significant other and say, you know what, I can't live like that. I have to have a gift under the Christmas tree for me because I'm all about gifts. That's how I feel loved. It's okay if that's who you are, communicate that. But in general, it's something you could at least consider as a couple, is whether you could just forego gifts to each other and just either celebrate later or enjoy that extra money as a relief for not having spent the money. Now, here's an important thing. Stay strong. You're going to have to stay strong. It may mean staying off the internet, not reading the ads, or unsubscribing from the ads that come from all these companies. It means staying out of the store if you're like me and much more interested in buying things if you walk into a store than you are online. Stay away from it. If that is we talked about that in yesterday's broadcast. Know your trigger points. If you know that if you open that email, you're going to want to buy from that company, even though you can't afford it or you're already done buying for that person, don't open the email. You can actually delete it and never open it. It's a very great gift. Another thing, accept gifts graciously without the need to reciprocate. I know I've been there. I've had a closet full of gifts that just in cases gifts often have at least one or two pre-wrapped up in case somebody arrives without a gift for me, or with a gift for me and I didn't buy one for them. You know what? I'm done with that. I'm to the point now where I'm just going to learn to be gracious and say thank you very much. I really appreciate that you thought of me. Doesn't have to be reciprocated. What is the very worst that could happen? Well, I suppose that there's the occasional person who's going to get so angry that you'll lose their friendship forever. But in general, what's going to happen is the next year, they won't give you a present. And they may have been relieved not to have gotten one from you so that they can stop that habit of giving you a present. So just learn to be gracious and say thank you. It was nice to be thought of without the need to reciprocate. I hope those things help you. help me, because here's one of the key points. A deal is not a deal if it puts you in debt. So instead of look how much I saved and that kind of a mindset, think about this is how much I spent. Start saying that to yourself. This is how much I spent, no matter what the quote unquote savings were, because if you didn't buy it, the savings would be 100% of that money. So think through your spending and allow yourself to start the new year with a sigh of relief and satisfaction that you're not in debt, and peace to just start the year in joy and debt free. Hey, have a great day.